Hey guys, Becky with Design Bundles here, and I'm super excited to have you join me today because we are talking about how to use point editing in Silhouette Studio. This is definitely one you don't want to miss. Okay guys, so here we are in Silhouette Studio, and all I have here is a basic star. I pulled this star from my Flexi Shapes, but I feel like a star is a pretty good starting point to talk about point editing. Now, the point editing menu can be achieved over here on your left-hand toolbar where it says Edit Points. In addition, you can also double-click on your design. So completely up to you. Usually most people find out about point editing, especially beginners, because you double click on your design by accident and then it's kind of like, whoa, what is this craziness here? Well, when you double click on it and you unlock all of these points, that is your point editing toolbar to be able to modify your design based on these points. So let's run through the basic options that we have here. The very first one is delete point. So if I were to click on a point, I can choose delete. I can choose break path. That means that I can now move this in different directions. Okay. Instead of being joined together, I've broken that path. Now this is already a corner, but if not, I could turn it into a corner. I can also smooth it out. I can also choose make flat. I can make curve. Now curve along with smooth really make for an interesting combo because that's where you can start really manipulating if you wanted to add some curve to a design. Another thing that you can do is the simplify, which does not apply for the star, but we will take a look at that once we get a more complex design in here. Let me also tell you about a really neat feature. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with light gray, and I just want to show you what happens when your path is broken, because this is bound to happen at one point or another. You will trace something or you will be setting up a design and you will go to fill that design, and no matter how many times you click it, your color will not take. If I break the path on this shape, you'll notice automatically it does not fill with color. So let me slide this over just a tad. So when you double click on a design and you see any red points, that is an indicator that that is an open-ended broken path. Now your path is basically, let's just go ahead and assume it's the outline of your design. So if your path is broken, that means your shape has a gap in it. Therefore, it's kind of like pouring water in a bucket with holes in it, okay? It can't hold the color that you're trying to fill it with if there's a hole in the outline. So just try to think of it that way. But the good thing is, usually you should have two open-ended paths that you can then just connect. And once you connect them, then the shape will automatically fill either with the color that you've already selected, or you can easily select your fill color again. Another really cool thing about your point editing is that you can select more than one point at a time. If I hold down my shift key, I can click on each point that I want to select. In addition to that, you can add points by clicking anywhere in the line path. So if I wanted to add some extra points to this design, then I could simply click on the line path and then manipulate as I please. You can also manipulate after you've added the points. So definitely a lot of flexibility to create your own designs and do different things like that. Now to select more than one at a time without clicking individually, you can also hold the shift key, click down with your mouse, and anything that becomes incorporated in your drag box is now selected as a point editing group. So anything that I choose to do to one will now be done to all. So if I wanted to make them all curved, then that's what would happen. And last but not least, when talking about the basics, probably the most common thing that you will do is delete. So you can click on any point, and of course you can use the delete button over here, but especially if you want to delete multiple points at one time, I do this a lot when I'm trying to smooth out designs. I will use the delete button on my keyboard, and you'll notice all it does is it rotates clockwise. Now don't let that deceive you, because there are times when it'll seem like it doesn't, but it will rotate clockwise until all the points are deleted, or until you stop hitting the delete button. Let's go ahead and move on to a more complex design. Now I brought in this clip art. I'm just going to trace it real quick because a lot of times tracing will result in a lot of point editing points, a lot of points on the design. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fill with color because it does make them easier to see, but I'm going to fill with a light color. Now if I double click, you'll see there's a lot of points, right? Now that's where I was saying that simplify comes in. You can hit simplify on your design, and what will happen is you'll notice that it tries to reduce the number of points that you have. And sometimes that's good. I won't lie. Occasionally, especially when you really start getting down to fewer and fewer number of points, then it will start to almost distort your design. It starts to look almost too smooth, all right? And then you don't have the same look as you had in the original. So don't try to simplify down too far. But a lot of times when your designs are taking a long time to process, it's going to be picking up off of the number of points, or sometimes it's just the file size. So if you're working on a file and it's not a particularly large file where it has like a lot of patterns or a lot of fills or just, it's oversized, anything like that. If it's just simply taken a long time, it's probably that it has a lot of points and you may or may not benefit from simplifying the design down. Now, one more last tidbit before we forget. Point editing can also be used on images. It's not just for cut lines. But you have to use it in a unique way. It's almost the equivalent of being able to crop down a photo. I can double click and you see I have my 4 points at the corners. And then I'm just going to hold Shift and select the 2 at the top. And then I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use the directional arrows on my keyboard. And I can do that on both sides to crop my photo down to where it matches closer to my image. Now, I can also use this to crop out areas of the photo that I don't need. So if I want to crop out one penguin, I can do that. And I can do that mostly by hand. And then I can come in and do a little bit more manipulating if I need to. So now I'm down to one penguin. If I decide I want the other penguin back, that's okay, because I can come back and re-reveal him. The only thing to be careful of, and it's not like you wouldn't notice it when it happened, but if you get too far into point editing, you'll see that your image starts to repeat. So that could be good or that could be bad, but just know that if you start editing too much and you start revealing too much, then you end up with more of your picture than you bargained for. Now, hopefully you have learned a thing or two about point editing and you're ready to jump on in and start seeing how you can make it work for you. So guys, how did you feel about point editing in Silhouette Studio? Now, point editing, I will call it an intermediate tool. It's not something that I recommend tackling as a beginner, but guys, as you learn more and more designing in Silhouette Studio, you will definitely need to learn this tool and learn how to use it to your benefit. There are just so many awesome things that you can do with it and awesome things that you can fix with it, right? If you ever have any errors with open paths and things like that. If you learned something today, guys, if you don't mind, give us a quick like, share with a crafty friend, or even just subscribe to the channel. That helps us support our little channel here so we can keep bringing you awesome videos in the future. I do really appreciate that you took time out of your day to stop by and see me. I appreciate every time you leave a question or a comment. I love to hear from you guys, so make sure you put that in the comment area below. And I'm going to wrap it up today, guys, but I do appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I will see you again next time.